Now, let's look at funnel setup. How to create a funnel using Facebook ads. This is going to be a fundamental thing for essentially, or it's going to be, this is understanding the targeting setup is fundamental in setting up the funnel in general. Okay. So this is where we really start with the ad manager. Okay. Now, I think some of you guys might have seen the screenshot of, some of my my performance for Floatlight on the collective. We were looking at, like, for instance, ROAS and stuff. And then just to kind of show you how I finished off, how we actually finished off this last month. I'm just going to kind of condense some of this stuff real quick. Facebook loves to reset this on me every single time I go in here. Okay. So I have some of these random, these campaigns, and I do put a lot of money into this stuff. Like, so anybody that's out there that's listening, that's like, oh, I can run a small campaign. You can, but like, you're going to be kind of enticed to, I guess, spend more money when you know you're making money. And I know that I am, because these conversions are coming through. So you can see I have 28 bookings here. And, I spent $416 on that 28 bookings. That's not really the greatest. I spent $220 on the 16. I spent $415 on 50. This one's really, really doing good. This one's terrible. Okay, so not even I am perfect. But just to kind of give you an idea, like, the ROAS is a really, really good metric as far as like how well you're performing. And so some of these you're going to see, like, I'm not really generating an ROAS because this is what website traffic is, a prospecting audience. Remember, prospecting audiences are the ones you collect people to then put into a different audience. So you can't expect the return on ad spend to be very high. And just so that everyone knows what this means, is it's return on ad spend is for every dollar that you spend, this number is how much you're making on that purchase conversion. So, for instance, you notice that I had those 50 events, $3,667.77. I spent, how much did I spend? $415. I generated an ROAS of 8.82. And then the booking abandonment, retargeting. This is a very, very advanced setup as far as how I actually built this particular audience, which we can talk about in the future sometime. I'm not going to go into it right now, but basically this is for somebody who navigates to Floatlight's booking page, clicks on a schedule appointment, and then decides not to book. It actually then puts them into an ad set, and you can see the frequency of that's really, really high, 10.99, but it's also one of the highest performing groups. And so the way that I do it is Floatlight Pixel abandonment booking visitors, and then it clicked a lead but did not book within 180 days. And then just to kind of give you an idea what the ad set looks like on something like this, I actually, and again, this is where, the Art of Float comes in, where I have to give a shout out. Totally valuable resource, especially the video version, because, like, I'll take the Art of Float's content and just use it because it's perfect. 15 to 25 seconds, like, use the content. And for your copy, you can actually put something in here like I have. We noticed that you were online looking to book a float or a massage. Let us help you finish booking. You can even go one step further and create this remarketing group into something like, here's $10 or $15 off your float. We noticed you were online. We do not do that because we are faithful to our guests. We don't discount the first service ever. There's not any route to that. We believe that the service is worth what it's worth the first time around. We only offer that promotion on the second visit. And it makes sense to do it that way. That's just our philosophy. Now, we also have another creative with, again, Art of Float content. Just seems to be really useful because I didn't have to edit anything. I just basically threw it in there. So hopefully the Art of Float folks, if you're not already on there, maybe you'll go join and get some value out of that $30 level. It's worth it. Seriously. Facebook wants video, so get the video. Anyway, so just to kind of get into the nitty gritty of this, how do we create an ad using some of the information that we've already created? We're going to start at the top level, and that's going to be the top level of the funnel prospecting audience. Oh, yeah, quick question. I don't know. I mean, it's not a broad question. My ad spend, well, okay, so there's two ways to look at this. We could look at ad spend. I advertise on Hulu, Reddit, TikTok, Snapchat, Facebook. I do some TV. So, but that's the overarching ad spend. For Facebook ad spend, which isn't a very broad question, it's it's anywhere between $1,000 and $2,000 on a given month, depending on the month. Around Christmas and especially before Black Friday, it's probably closer to like 3 or 4 thousand because the conversions are there. Like I know I'm spending money, and it might seem like scary, like oh my god, you're spending so much money on Facebook ads, but you're seeing the conversions roll in. And there is something that we're going to talk about at the end of this presentation. It's going to be the last set, and that's called maintenance. It might not seem important, and you may have heard this term, but uploading offline conversion events is so crucial that if there's one thing that you've failed to do, if you failed to do that, you probably would stop advertising because you wouldn't understand why you're not driving the conversions. Offline conversion events are crucial because a lot of people don't actually make the conversion event online. They're so curious about what you're offering, especially when it comes to floating, that they actually call you. And obviously, if they're making a phone call, that doesn't get attributed. That's what Facebook calls an attribution. It doesn't get attributed to the sale. Well, how do you make that happen? Well, we're going to talk about that. That's going to be the final little piece of the puzzle. And also for bonus for Helm users and anyone in this call, I'm going to provide you the template. That's going to be a game changer. And then you're going to get those conversion events. So I can answer them. Why not? I don't know. Good question. I've said something really funny before. I said Facebook is the machine. It's like the gambling machine. You can put money in it, and it might bring you more money. It just depends. Have I spent $5,000 on Facebook? Yeah, I spent $5,000 on Facebook around Black Friday. Diminishing returns. It's possible. See, here's the thing. Okay, it's a hard question to answer because it depends on your location. If your frequency becomes so high, remember, frequency is how many times, and I'll show you that metric here in a second, how many times the ad actually shows up on someone's Facebook page, account, Instagram, where have you. It could even be the ad audience network. If the frequency gets too high, like 20 or 30, like do you really need to show somebody an ad 20 or 30 times? No, you're probably just burning money at that point. I try to maintain my frequency between, I don't know, let's say 15 to no higher than 15. Like then I start turning stuff off. And again, that's part of the maintenance part of this whole presentation. But yeah, so I don't know. If you're in a big region, you have big audiences, spend to your heart's content. I hope you get hundreds of bookings. I can't do it though. I don't have the population size here in Appleton to be able to invest that much and have a great ROAS. No classes, man. I'm sorry. I'll try to do the best I can to help. I teach myself everything. Josh can attest for that. We're the same. We learn, we Google, we look up YouTube videos. We just learn stuff. If there's something to learn, there's a way of learning it. And if there's no information, then you better be doing a Zoom call like this one where you can teach it. Because somebody needs to learn it. So this is like advertising on Facebook for float centers, maybe spas. Other people can probably benefit from it. So, all right, cool. So let's start. here real quick. We're going to create an audience. So ad manager, you're going to get this. It's going to be a blank slate. You're going to be like, oh my gosh, where am I going to go? You're going to have to put your credit card in, of course, because Facebook wants to take your money, but that's okay. Trust, it's not going to start billing you. There's no subscriptions. You pay for what you define. Let's start at the top level of the funnel. How do we create the prospecting audience? Well, there's a couple ways to do it. First of all, auction. Just keep it on auction. So much easier. Don't complicate yourself. You can read about what the difference is, but we're doing pretty basic stuff here. Awareness. Now, there might be people out there that are like, well, why aren't you doing awareness campaigns? That's the way to do it, blah, blah, blah. I just don't really know if it's necessary for what we're doing because we have audiences. We don't need to create awareness for people who may have already been aware, especially in their location, but you can do brand awareness. I feel like brand awareness is generally done for like really, really big companies. Reach is like the ultimate form of gambling. Like just throw it out there. Instead, consideration. This seems to be the best top level funnel. Now you can do brand awareness, but traffic. The consideration is what are you trying to get people to do? Well, if you want them to go to your website so they get caught in something like a funnel, do traffic. If you want them to engage with a post, do engagement. You can do lead generation, but what I've been told by my ad strategist from Facebook, they work for Facebook, they say traffic engagement is just number one. It's most used, and people that I know that invest millions of dollars on Facebook, they don't use anything else either. They use these two. Traffic is important because what traffic does is it's driving people to a specific location online, like a website. So, traffic campaign, you can name your campaign if you want, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to click continue and just completely destroy my Facebook ads 2020 account here. Okay. I always recommend if you're doing this, name your campaigns. Just take a moment and think about things like, what is this campaign trying to do? Well, I'm trying to literally call it bring people to a website, or you could call it something like prospects. Now, let's just see here. No worries about A/B testing. It's advanced stuff. Campaign budget optimization is my favorite thing in the world. Just enable it. I can try to tell you what it does, but basically it allows you to just define how much money you want to spend in a given time period without having to define each ad set. And you're relying on Facebook's algorithms to invest the money in the most valuable campaigns. And it just works. It allows you to turn on and off things that aren't performing. So turn on campaign budget optimization. This just basically means that it's going to allocate the money where it thinks it's best used. Good rule of thumb, you want to invest in the entire funnel, the amount of the service. So let's say a float is $69. That's what you're looking for them to purchase. $69 per day is what you're looking to probably invest in Facebook. I know it's a huge jump into that direction. There is a reason why Mark Zuckerberg is a billionaire. Okay? Like, it just works. You'll see. So let's say $20 a day for your top level funnel works good. Click next. Your ad set. Now, remember how when we were looking at the different targeting groups in the targeting setup right here, how to identify your remarketing audiences? This is going to be where your lookalike groups are going to be super valuable because you can actually create the ad set. You remember how we were looking at the lookalikes and you're like, well, why did it define as United States? Why can't I put my city, for instance? Well, let me try to explain why. Because you don't have to have it defined as your city because you're doing that right here anyway, but you're using that audience. So like just to kind of go from the top, don't worry about any of this. We can talk about that stuff later, but you want to create a custom audience using you're building a new audience using a custom audience. So let's say we've just created a new lookalike. Remember, it was called the demo group. So now we're going to use the lookalike demo group of the Facebook audience from, my demo account here of all those people, including Abraham Lincoln and everyone else. And then you're going to include just that audience. And now here is where you can define, you know, more particular, like where people are located. So remember how that audience was like, it, well, it's saying fewer than 1,000. It's kind of small. I think it's probably because I only exported 500 from the demo account. For most of you guys, you probably have like 2 or 3,000 audience. I think Floatlight, we have like close to 10,000, but um, it won't stay so broad. It should stay maybe right up here in the green a little bit. So then what you're going to do is people living recently in this location, that's totally fine. Just to choose that, because I did confirm, like, if you're choosing people that are recently in this location, it's not people that were here last week and then is now in Chicago. It's people that, when they say recent, it means like here now, but they don't necessarily have an address here. So people living in the United States, just click the X, man. Like, seriously, get rid of that, because you don't want people, you don't want to target the entire United States. This is where you get people that are advertising, and somebody in Texas sees somebody's ad from New York. Like, just don't do that. Now I'm gonna look up Floatlight. So 609 West College, but you could probably just type in your business name, Floatlight. Okay, so Floatlight's a place, comes up, boom, there we go. Now it's going to take the lookalike group and only advertise to the people who I typed in Floatlight. But you'll notice, like, here's 1 mile. Well, that's not very good, because that's like maybe a block away from us, right? So what I recommend is just move it out 50 miles. I feel like that's a safe bet. Now, for some of you guys, there might be competitors around, which is fine. This is business. It's no big deal. You want to try to reach the group. You can also do advanced targeting where you can choose zip codes, what have you. So 50 miles, lookalike group. You can define age, gender, but don't go and start doing any advanced stuff. Like, don't change your detailed targeting. You don't need that. This is going to be one entire audience, automatic placement. You want to deliver for landing page views or link clicks. Sometimes landing page views is better. Don't worry about anything else. Name the audience. This is my advice. Take this name, copy it, put it right there. Bam, done. You're going to hit, and then you're going to actually publish that, hit next. Now you're going to create the ad, okay? Don't boost a post. Create the ad from scratch. There are a couple different ways to do this. I recommend putting in a video. Oh, yeah. So you got to set some stuff up here. I actually do believe that I missed something. Let me just double check one thing. I know that we're doing a traffic campaign. I want to make sure. Where do you want them to go? A website? Nope, you define the website here. Okay. So because this is a traffic campaign trying to get people to go to a website, your website URL, let's say it's, what do we call it? It's Jonathan Rogue Demo at, wait, slash, is it Float Helm? Yeah, it still is Float Helm. Slash Float Helm. Oh, wait, no, it's dot floathelm.com/booking, right? So we want them to go to the website to book a reservation. Oh, apparently. Oh, yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about all the craziness up here. Cool. Oh, right on. Floatlight.floathelm.com/booking. We're just going to do that because it doesn't seem to work otherwise. Maybe it's because the other website's not set up, have you. And you want people to go to that website. All the rest of this, you can fill this in. Call to action. Make sure that you're specifying the particular call to action. In this case, book now. If you're looking for them to book, or you can click, I think there's a buy now, there's a purchase now, there's learn more. If you're getting them to go to a landing page, that's a great strategy. If you have a really nice landing page, we don't. Like, I just don't have time to set one up. I really should. I'd probably get way better ROAS, way better ad spend. But look, if you guys do better than me, that's great, because you're actually taking the time to do it. I have like 10 million things on my plate. But anyway, display link, you can add that if you want. Now, what should you do with this ad? Like, what should you have for the primary header? Well, you should be like simple, curious about floating. That's a really, really good headline. Let me just tell you, or primary text, or headline. You can put don't do the same. Curious about floating. I would actually put that as a headline. Your primary text is you could say something like, "Hey, did you know you can float on water or something?" Just try different things. And the reason I say that is because you want to click this add option button here. Add a bunch of different options because see what happens is Facebook's going to go through those and determine which one's the best, right? And then if they say, well, the one that you said, do you want to float on water doesn't work, it's just going to get rid of it and you don't have to worry about it. Fill these in, fill in the description. After you're done with that, you want to add media. I always recommend adding video. Now, here's something that is unique and interesting here. Remember how I was telling you before, like there's these different kind of I think it was the Art of Float, right? Like they have this amazing copy or amazing content. Well, use it. Like I think this is a video here. This one's really popular. You kind of 15 seconds. Use the Art of Float video. So go get that Patreon subscription. I know mine just renewed today, so like maybe you'll have to do a revision. I'm sure the Art of Flow people, but it's good stuff. Like seriously, it's simple. You don't need fancy things because people see that they're like, "Wow, she's really floating. It's amazing." Now, I do have ad copies there where there's like the Joe Rogan video that I made and I gave to everyone on the collective, and I have other things like that and all these different things, which you can use. But and there are websites where you can actually have it so that it automatically sets up a vertical, it automatically sets up a regular square, and horizontal set scene, which we can talk about in the future, but you just click done. It's as simple as that. Now you just made an ad. Click publish, which I'm not going to do. And now you just set up the top level of the funnel. But that's not all. You need to continue to make ad sets. Make an ad set for the lookalike for the demo. Make an ad set for the lookalike for the pixel visitors or the booking visitors, 1 to 3%. And then you can even make an ad set that isn't necessarily using a custom audience. Like let's say you want to make an ad set that's actually looking at detailed targeting. One piece of advice is that for detailed targeting, you can actually look up like wellness. It's funny, I try to actually do it and it doesn't work. Right here, alternative medicine. Make an ad set that has alternative medicine. Always click this box, reach beyond the targeted audience. It works really well. That's another prospecting group. Publish that. That'll only go to people who have expressed expressed interest in that specific kind of thing. Once you're done with that prospecting audience, publish it. It'll start going out to show people at $20 a day. And then just to kind of give you an idea, this is what mine looks like. I have a 50% 50 miles targeting stress and wellness, 1 to 3 pixel booking, 1 to 5 engaged, customer file lifetime value. That's a very, very valuable one, like I was saying. And you can see like some of these are performing, some aren't. But Facebook is deciding where to put the money. And then what do my ad sets look like? Well, I actually used this one. Have you experienced zero gravity? It's kind of like people are floating through space, really good copy. I sit and I tell people about floating, and a lot of people comment on it like, wow, that was really educational. Thank you. Oh, sorry. My producer keeps telling me I start leaning on the microphone. Okay. My ADD went crazy on that one. You can spend less. This is what Facebook tells me. So yeah, so basically the question is why did I say that you should spend about $69 a day? I think that $69 a day is probably going to sound really high for a lot of you guys, and you don't have to do that. That's what Facebook told me. And what do I know? Maybe Facebook's being told to tell their customers that they want you to spend more money. So look, there is a minimum amount that I think you can spend on a remarketing campaign. But even if you only advertise to the top level of the funnel, here's the great thing. Notice how even at the top level, I still got 4 website purchases. So you're still generating something. Somebody can make a conversion event right on the top level of the funnel. They don't have to be refunneled down into the bottom levels. So even if you're just investing $10 in the top layer, you have to readjust level of the funnel. Um, there is still the potential for you to make those conversions, right? So if you want to invest just $10, I think that $10 sounds good. You're going to be okay. You know what? Maybe if you're just starting out, just do the $10 until you start to get the hang of things and then do the next level and invest another $10. I think that's legitimate.
Another question: for the top level funnel ad sets, do you exclude opposing target
Oh,
audiences so they don't overlap?
yes, yes, yes. Again, thank you for pointing this out. It's so hard for me to cover every single thing, but at the top level, if you're having multiple ad sets, and I recommend no more than 5 per campaign, you definitely want to exclude your other audience ad sets because you will have overlap. So who actually said that? Andy, good call, my friend. Actually, I have to give a shout.
Sorry, that was Matt.
Oh,
Matt.
good call, Matt. Um, but also good shout out to Andy. I had a chance to listen to Andy's podcast with, I think it was Art of Float. Um, if I'm not mistaken, I think Andy is pretty skilled at Google Ads and YouTube, which seriously great place to advertise too. Was also made some amazing infographic type float things, which I love. So anyway, but yeah, so I'll get to the question. Yes, exclude so you don't have overlap. It's definitely important. And so, like for an example, you'll notice how I have this 50 plus miles targeted. Notice how I actually excluded every single other thing on this side. Okay, so for instance, I know it doesn't seem like it, but 1 to 3 is the same as 1 to 3 pixel booking event. I excluded that group. I excluded that group. I excluded that group. The reason why you want to exclude each of these audiences from this one is because you might end up advertising to, let's say, 1 to 3 pixel booking event and 1 to 3 float like customer file lifetime value. They might overlap, and it's likely that they will because they're very similar type audiences. You know that the people that spent money with you, that Facebook is creating an audience for, is similar to the people that have also booked with you that they're creating a lookalike for. So you want to exclude them from each other so you're not advertising to those same exact people. Oh, did they want to know what exclude is? Okay, so let's start off. I just want to make sure that people are following along. Ad set level, edit, go down to your audience. If you see, this is confusing because it's showing that I had created a custom audience here. In this case, I'd hit edit, but you might see this screen. At the top, it'll say audience name. There'll be the custom audiences, include people who are at least in one of the following. There's also exclude people who are at least in one of the following. That's where you're going to enter the audience names. Now, this is where like I could go on for hours teaching everyone this stuff. They said the screen is blurry. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. Well, I do apologize about the blurry screen. I think like um with all things, I don't know if I can fix that. But under the ad set level, click at it. You're gonna go down to audience. You're gonna see exclude people who are at least in one of the following. And then you're going to click search for existing audiences. You're going to find the existing audiences that you've just made using like these other audience ad sets groups. So for instance, I have a lookalike US 3% pixel booking event 180 days. I'm excluding that from the other audience just as I did for everything else. So that's basically how that works. Very, very, very good. Very, very good question. Who was that? Matt? Thank you, Matt. Like, I almost missed it, but that is an important thing to do It's extremely valuable information, although it might confuse most of you guys. But that's something you should do. Okay. Any other questions? Throws money at Jonathan for him to keep going for hours. Oh, geez. I think we'd all get too tired for that. Okay, so top level campaign, I think, is done for now. Now, this is the next thing that we should talk about. After we create the top level campaign, we need to figure out how we can take those people and retarget them. Remember retargeting, remarketing, retargeting? That's where we get the book now campaigns. In my case, is book now. Now, again, booking, abandonment, retargeting, that's a little more advanced because I'm actually having certain, it's a logic thing. Like one thing has to happen before another thing happens before they're in the, they're put into that section of the funnel. So the book now campaign, and I'm actually going to walk you guys through it because it's going to be too confusing. The way that you create the second layer of the funnel is to drive a conversion event. Okay, hit conversions. Click continue. Bam. Same thing here. You're going to go down to budget campaign optimization. Highly recommend turning that on just because it's so, I love it. Just love it. Now, this is important and this is going to change in the future, but for now, I think we still have the ability to do it. You're going to make sure that your purchase event conversion is set up to your pixel. You have to define the event. In this case, if you're looking, I had normally set this up to booking and it's locked out all functionality right now because of the new aggregated thing, which we're working on getting fixed. But eventually you'll be able to select, whatever you're looking for. In the case, this purchase or the booking event. So you can click it, you set that, and then you'll go down. You can do other things. You can make a dynamic creative if you want. I don't recommend it. I've not had success with that. You could make an offer. Again, I wouldn't recommend it because I don't like discounting things. But then you're going to, so once you get that set up, you have your conversion event. Now what you're going to want to do is instead of using lookalike, actually select the custom audience that we just made before. Now, remember when we were going through the first section of this conversation or this presentation, I was talking about targeting and how do you create the audiences? We actually created this demo audience of all customers exported from Helmbot. You actually want to potentially advertise to these people in that group. But more importantly, you want to create an audience that's not the lookalike, but you want to target the group that you set up with the pixel. Actually, probably should just go back and show you because this is confusing otherwise. You want to create an audience that, like for instance, of website activity using your pixel. And let's say you want to target people that are website visitors. 180 days, because see, the idea here is that you have your 1 to 3 lookalike that visits your webpage. They then get put into a audience that of people who have actually went to your website, which are likely those people that saw your ad and then clicked on them. They get put into an actual audience of people that clicked on your site, but may or may not have booked anything. And you'd name this audience like website pixel visitors or something. And I actually have that on here somewhere for Floatlight. They are different though, because you don't want it. This is not a lookalike. So I think right here, let's just see. Oh yeah, here we go. So includes people who meet any of the following: all website visitors to Floatlight Pixel in the last 180 days. That's a really, really good audience to put into the book now audience, because it automatically, by logic, would dictate that these people would then have been the people in the top level of the funnel because they visited your site because you were pushing traffic. So that probably was confusing, but I hope you're following along. If anyone has a question, you can stop me. So you're going to set up that audience. One thing leads to another. You're going to go to the new ad, but instead of me actually trying to show you how to make the ad, I'm just going to show you my ad sets. Now, I have this book now, 11521 Hybrid. It's not really a good example because this is more of an experiment of mine. So we're going to go down to the book now straight up. Now, this is where we were generating huge amounts of results, for instance, like really huge amount of results right here. Now, this audience is actually a Floatlight Facebook engaged in the last 180 days. Now, you don't even need to have a pixel. Here's something that might be hugely helpful. It depends how active you are on Facebook, which Floatlight is extremely active. We have a community. We talk to people. We act like goofballs half the time because people don't like stiffs, you know, like be fun. We actually have an audience set up for people who just engaged with us in the last 180 days that gets segmented in. That's still a remarketed audience or retargeted audience because it doesn't have to have or had resulted from your top level. You know, it can just result because your top level was engagement to begin with. So that's where we generated the 31 bookings. But let's take a look at offline activity, booking event, pixel visited, plus 10%. So I guess I'm adding a bunch of things together. So I'll click on that. Now, here is something that you should know. There are different types of ad copies. You don't want to run too many, but you want to experiment with different things and rotate them. That's why you have all these different things. So one example is, you know, like this floating for stress. And that I believe that this actually was shared on the collective by Andy. And I have to say, like, man, what a generous offer, man. Like, seriously, you came up with some amazing stuff that I actually use, and it's so good. So thank you. But if you take a look at it, like, I'm actually naming these particular ads in like, you can see their videos, blah, blah, blah. You talked about stress. How do you help anxiety and stress? Click now to learn more. And you have like different copies for that as well. Same with like the 60-second commercial that I put out for Floatlight, which is really simple. And there's just a whole bunch from actually, just as a side note, my producer Josh, he actually made this commercial. And it was the greatest thing in the world. We we had casting calls here at Floatlight. We had all these actors. We had a whole day. It was amazing. It was a great time. But so we made this commercial that seems to be pretty popular. And so what you do is you're putting out these different ad sets, and you have to be kind of this. I'm going to talk about in the last section of this. But you got to turn them on and off. You can't keep them all running because your frequency is going to go up, and you're not going to be putting money into the ones that are performing the best. So like after each month, I do an audit. Like, well, what's performing? Well, I'm definitely going to turn this one off, but I'm not yet because I'm showing you as an example. I only got 2 bookings, but it's still invested. But see how Facebook only put $11 into this? Like, they're not investing tons of money into this one, but maybe it's worth keeping on, maybe not, really depends. But you know, these are the types of audiences that you want to create different kind of ad sets for, target different types of people. You know, there's that meditation one, there's a commercial, there's that one that I had at the top level to begin with. There's also this one I made. There's like the Joe Rogan one that I made that I shared with everybody on the collective. You guys can totally use this, by the way. I don't even care. Like, just do whatever you want with it, change it. But it's just Joe Rogan talking. You know, that famous thing he says on Facebook or on whatever, blah, blah, blah. He's talking about how amazing the float tank is. People just love to hear that, especially those, you know, introspective people that are like, you know, probably really high and need to get in the float tank like now. Like, definitely target those folks. So sorry about that. See, my ADHD is going really fast now. Okay, so oh geez, I feel like maybe I should open it up to questions because I'm even convoluted. We're almost done. We're almost in the last section. Don't worry. Questions. I really want to hear from you guys, man. Like, it's so awkward sitting here. So say something.
I'm just enthralled. I can't follow it all, and I'm excited to go back and, like I said earlier, go back and watch each and every thing over. Plus, I've got two little distractions that are constantly wanting to share their cookies with me, which is great, but it doesn't help.
Well, biggest thing is does everyone feel like I'm providing value? Because I don't want to waste anyone's time. I really want to make sure that I'm teaching people something of value, and it's hard because Facebook is very complicated, but I'm doing the best I can. So as long as I'm on that track, and if there's no questions, it means I must be doing something good.
Oh no, I couldn't put a price on it, because I guarantee you that if somebody was providing this and I was paying for it, it would be in the hundreds of dollars range, because it's so specific and so in depth, and this truly is education. So it's beyond valuable. Beyond valuable. You need to give yourself credit for that.
Thank you. I kind of feel like I need like a beginner, like back it up a little bit to those of us that have no knowledge whatsoever, because you're more on an advanced level than I'm used to. Maybe like marketing for dummies. And then I had one more question. I had a question in general. When I go to do a conversion on Facebook, it asks for something that I need to put into my website, and I don't know how to set that up at all.
That's a pixel.
Because thank you. So obviously I need the beginner course to this course, because I don't know where to go and get that, find it, where to put it.
So that is really important. Are you use Float Helm?
Mm-hmm.
What I'm going to do is, and this is going to be kind of like that shout out to the Helmbot Captains Facebook group. Like seriously, if you guys use Helmbot, go to the Helmbot Captains and just join, because I'm going to be doing like very small segmented little tutorials on how to set these things up, as opposed to live streams like this, because I feel like that's going to provide a little bit more value. That way it's going to be named like how to set up a Facebook pixel on Helmbot. Boom, done. That's done. You can look it up. You can see it. It's there.
And there's a Google one too, like a Google API number.
Yeah.
It's like the same thing, but for Google, right?
Yeah. So there's the Google Tag Manager.
Okay.
There's also the Google AdWords. Those are both pretty valuable. The Tag Manager is actually a super powerful tool. You can actually use Tag Manager to link Pixel, but I think that right now the most important thing for you is to get the Pixel set up, and that's something that will be on the Helmbot Captains. I'll have a custom video walking you exactly through how to do that. And we can kind of brief on that a little bit more, I guess, later, if you'd like. So,
Michelle asks, how do I access your notes and demos?
Helmbot Captains. You have to have Float Helm. Or if you don't have Float Helm, you can private message me. But some of that stuff's not going to apply. Like, I'm not going to share my template for Facebook exportation, because it won't apply to you unless you use Float Helm.
Jonathan, it's Jeannie. Be sure anyone who asks to join the Helmbot Captains group answers the questions.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, just make sure you just put the reason why we have you do that is because we're trying to prevent like competitors from snooping on the group for like, you know, innovation or purposes. We're trying to protect the people at Helmbot. We want them to be successful. We love the software. We just want it to be as best as it can be. So, yeah. So just answer the questions. But yeah. So basically, unless of course there's any other questions. Is there one thing to pick to get started on first, especially since there's a lot of people that might be a little scared to getting into it all in terms of audience creation, website visitors, Float Helm, export lookalikes? Geez, that's such a hard one. I would say that if anything, you know, just start off with that top level. But what I talked about, website traffic, just try to drive people traffic. Like, you know, you can't just boost posts. That's all that's really doing is driving engagement. That's important, but then that becomes a top level funnel itself. That's your goal. Remember, there's always goals to advertising. And if your goal is just for engagement, what does that really do for you? A lot of people might be looking at Floatlight's page right now and being like, why do you guys never post anything? All you ever do is share your guest content. because I feel like that's the best. I don't know why do I make things? I'm sharing what other people are creating. Our guests are now creating content for us. We don't actually need to create posts anymore, which is the best thing in the world. So like, forget about boosting posts. You can do that. There are reasons to do it, but like start at top level and then create and market to people who have engaged with your Facebook page within 180 days. If there's our audience you should create that. I'll say it again. People who have engaged with your Facebook page within the last 180 days. Yeah, Facebook Blueprint is a great resource to start off too. I think that for a lot of people, it can get a little bit convoluted, where to start. I don't even know if I can answer that question. It's a lot of education, but yeah, I guess that's kind of the best thing to do. Any other questions? Could you cover offline events? Yes. Okay. Yes. This is the last part of this. And in my opinion, this is the most valuable.